Welcome to Prison Rule News. This is a new series with episodes recapping what's happened in prisons across the globe every week. This week, the Taliban have reached Kabul prison, China has detention camps in Dubai, and outgoing disgraced New York governor pardons 10 inmates. Be sure to stay tuned in for the above and more. The Taliban have released thousands of prisoners after conquering Kabul. Video footage appeared to show a stream of people walking free from the site, carrying their belongings. The majority of the prisoners who are seen calmly walking away from the prison are thought to be linked to terrorist and Islamic extremist groups. The Pul el-Chaki prison, said to be where the clip was filmed, can house around 5,000 prisoners and is the country's largest jail. Prior to the release, there were reports of gunfire around the facility, which militants appeared to surround before allowing prisoners out. It is unclear what the Taliban plan to do with the inmates after setting them free this weekend, but it is said that the majority are likely to join the group and continue their resurgence around the country. The Islamist militant group only arrived in the capital last weekend, but its rapid advance of power now appears to be complete, sparking chaos as residents try to flee. In the past week, Western countries have been in a rush and panic to get their people out of the country. Kabul main airport is the only stronghold in the country which hasn't been taken over by the Taliban. Thousands and thousands of people and potential refugees have been flooding to the airport, with approximately 5 people dying per day, panicking and trying to get on board. The panic among Afghans stems from previous Taliban rule from 1996 to 2001, when a harsh form of Islamic laws was in place. These laws are called Sharia laws and largely restrict their education and what they wear. A lot of people in these Western countries are also worried that without proper checks, some of these so-called terrorists may in fact be on those planes going back home. In the past week, Taliban spokespeople have said that their new project is more moderate and less dangerous for women than their last regime, although many are very sceptical. Prisoners at a Los Angeles institution have been filmed trying to catch coronavirus on purpose in hope of early release. This clip shows inmates sharing cups around in the hope of getting coronavirus. These actions don't seem to be isolated in Los Angeles, because, for example, Elmore Correctional in Alabama has 85% of the active cases in the state prisons. This is a staggering amount and is no doubt caused by prisoners trying to get COVID. In the past, many prisons have released prisoners who have got COVID or are under threat of COVID in hopes to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in prisons. It's because of this, prisoners are trying to contract the disease in order to get released early. Many members of the public are sceptical of this policy and are worried that the released prisoners will go on to commit crimes. Worry is not unfounded, however, as a few inmates have been found to commit murders as early as 2 days after being released. For example, a story is resurfaced in the UK of a man named Jerry Crawford who is behind bars for burglary and was released on the 4th of November 2020 on public health emergency reasons, i.e. COVID-19 spread in their jail. Just 2 days later, police responded to reports of shots fired and found the body of 18-year-old Davian Scarborough. Cops ended up getting CCTV footage from a nearby complex which showed the victim with 2 other men, Jerry Crawford, who had just been released, and another man. The pair have now been charged with first-degree murder and first-degree conspiracy to murder. However, this is not an isolated event. Joseph Edward Williams was charged with second-degree murder hours after being released, pending his trial. He was initially booked into Orient Road Jail in Hillsborough County, Florida, for possession of heroin, a third-degree felony. Williams was released early on 19th of March last year, one of more than 100 inmates awaiting trial who were released early. According to CNN, the day after he was released, there were reports of gunshots in a Tampa neighborhood, where they found a man who was pronounced dead at the scene. At the time, Sheriff Chad Chronister commented on the arrest saying, "There is no question Joseph Williams took advantage of the health emergency to commit crimes while he was out of jail awaiting resolution of a low-level non-violent offence. As a result, I called on the state attorney to prosecute the defendant to the fullest extent of the law." Outgoing Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, has commuted the sentences of 5 felons, including 3 tied to murders. He has further pardoned 5 more felons in the final days of office after resigning over a sex scandal. The first man he pardoned is called Nehru Gums, who fatally shot Traylane Walker, an innocent bystander, after a case of mistaken identity. Gums was 18 at the time and he was convicted of first-degree manslaughter, second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, and assault. The second man Andrew Cuomo has commuted the sentence of is John Adrian Velasquez, who's now 45. He was found guilty of killing a retired New York Police Department officer, Albert Ward, in 1999. Ward was reportedly running an illegal gambling facility in Harlem at the time of the shooting. Velasquez was convicted of second-degree murder, attempted murder, and 3 counts of first-degree robbery and first-degree attempted robbery in 1999. He has served 23.5 years of a 25 to life prison sentence in Sing Sing Prison in Ossining, New York. Velasquez and his lawyers proclaim his innocence to this day, and their case was championed by Martin Sheen, who has gone to visit him in prison numerous times. He's also campaigned on his behalf. The third man whose sentence has been reduced is Richard Chalk, who's now 71. He was one of 6 Brooklyn men who killed 2 drug dealers in upstate New York in 1988. One of the 6 members shot and killed George Patterson and William Mosley. Chalk, however, only drove the getaway car and was not the gunman. The jury found Chalk shouldn't bear the responsibility for the murders, but a judge overruled the jury. Chalk was then sentenced to 71 and 2/3 years to life in prison for 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of robbery, and 2 counts of burglary. He will be released in early September. The last man whose sentence has been reduced is Dante Mitchell, who's now 41. He committed several robberies in Albany during 1997 while at the age of 17. The most shocking of which was a robbery at McDonald's where he fired his gun and locked an employee in the freezer and took off with more than $1,000. He was sentenced as an adult, despite being only 17 when he committed the crimes, and has served 25.5 years of a 27 to 54 year prison sentence. Cuomo has also pardoned 5 people. This means that their criminal records are wiped clean and that they do not run the risk of being deported. The most notable person who was pardoned by Cuomo is Jorge Quinones. He was convicted of third-degree attempted criminal sale of a controlled substance in 1996, although since then he's been very successful. He's earned a master's degree from Boston University and has built communication helmets for the US military. He's been crime-free for 1996. Many people are not very happy with Cuomo, as after he's disgraced himself after 11 people came forward about his sexual misconduct, that he's now releasing murderers, including a cop killer. Cuomo is set to hand in his resignation letter any day now and will shortly leave office. A prison officer has been found guilty of misconduct after he demanded sexual favours from 12 female inmates in return for cell privileges. David Whitfield took advantage of the women over a 5-year period between 2011 and 2016 at Her Majesty's Prison, Low Newton in Durham in the north of England. The court heard how he abused his position of power to extract or encourage the inmates to carry out sex acts. Prosecutor Anne Richardson said Whitfield would enter one prisoner's cell while she was naked and brush against her. The pair regularly engaged in sex acts, although it did not progress to intercourse. In return, she would be given advance warning of cell searches, and any confiscated items would be given back to her. Whitfield has denied all the allegations, and his barristers argued that he had been the victim of prison gossip. He will be sentenced later this year. There have been reports that China has secret prisons in Dubai after Chinese national Wu Huan said she and 2 Uyghur Muslims were held by China in Dubai. she was imprisoned for 8 days in the secret prisons. If her claims are correct, this may be the first evidence that China is operating a so-called black site beyond its borders. The 26-year-old was on the run to avoid extradition back to China because her fiancé was considered a Chinese dissident. Wu told how she was abducted from a hotel in Dubai and detained by Chinese officials at a villa converted into a jail, where she saw or heard 2 other prisoners, both Uyghurs. The woman added that she had been interrogated and forced to sign legal documents incriminating her fiancé for harassment and rape. She was released on the 6th of June and is now seeking asylum in the Netherlands. According to AP, if Wu's testimony is correct, this would reflect how China is increasingly using its international clout to detain or bring back citizens it wants from overseas, whether they are dissidents, corruption suspects, or ethnic minorities like Uyghur Muslims. If you like this first episode of Prison News Weekly and would like to see more, please subscribe and leave us a like. See you all next week.